They called him a king, but his final days were a slow, living nightmare. A ruler once adored by his court and feared by his enemies, struck by a cruel fate that made his own body decay while he was still alive. The smell of death filled the palace halls, and whispers about his condition grew darker than any enemy's curse. In the glittering courts of medieval Europe, King Charles VI of France, also known as Charles the Beloved, began his reign with hope and promise. Born into luxury, crowned in splendor, he seemed destined for greatness. His armies were strong, his nobles loyal, and his people proud to follow him. But fate had other plans, and the story that followed would be stranger and more tragic than anyone could imagine. It began with strange fevers and unexplained rashes. At first, no one suspected anything deadly. But as the days passed, his skin began to blister and swell. The doctors of that time, more guided by superstition than science, tried herbal baths, charms, and even bloodletting. Nothing worked. The sores on his body refused to heal, darkening at the edges, and a foul smell began to linger in the air around him. Courtiers started to keep their distance, yet none dared to speak of it openly. In an age where disease was often seen as a punishment from God, the whispers spread quickly. Some claimed the king had been cursed for secret sins. Others whispered about poisoned goblets and the plots of ambitious rivals. The truth was simpler and more terrifying. Modern historians believe he may have suffered from a severe infection like gangrene or necrotizing fasciitis. In a world without antibiotics, the disease spread through his flesh without mercy. His skin began to rot, pieces peeling away, and the stench became so overpowering that even loyal attendants struggled to remain in the room. The king's once grand chambers became his prison. Where laughter, music, and feasts had once echoed, there was now only silence. Servants left his meals at the door. Curtains remained closed. The once proud and commanding figure now lay frail, wrapped in heavy robes, hidden away from the world. Only a handful of attendants dared to look at him, their faces pale as they tried to hide their revulsion. Days turned into weeks, and the isolation grew heavier. His mind wandered between reality and delirium. At times, he spoke to shadows on the wall, calling them by the names of long-dead friends. He ordered phantom armies into battle, then wept like a child for his mother. The man who had ruled over thousands was now lost within his own failing body and fading mind. By the final weeks, his voice had grown so faint that even those beside his bed had to lean close to hear him. His skin was discolored, his body thin, and the smell of decay clung to everything he touched. Attendants burned his sheets and clothing daily, but the air remained thick with the scent of death. On a cold winter morning, the bells of Paris rang. King Charles VI had died at last, his suffering over. Yet his passing did not bring relief to the memory of what had happened. The story spread like wildfire, becoming a grim legend of the ruler who rotted alive. History often remembers kings for their victories, their wealth, or their power. But the legacy of Charles VI stands as a reminder of something darker, that no crown, no fortress, and no army can protect a man from the slow cruelty of nature. And perhaps that is why, centuries later, his story still chills the hearts of those who hear it.